Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The father of a teenager who was stabbed to death is speaking out.
A top executive of the company that took over management of the New Providence landfill gives an update on their work.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, the father of 15-year-old Perry Roll Jr., who was stabbed to death after school on Tuesday, is speaking out. In an emotional interview with Our News, Perry Roll Sr. expressed frustration with school authorities and anger at his son's mother. Jared Higgs reports.
Behind the tears shed by 48-year-old Perry Roll Sr. is a man who is deeply frustrated, bordering on anger, with the circumstances surrounding his son's death.
My son was sweet to me. He loved his daddy, that's one thing. He started loving me. He didn't love his daddy. He didn't love his daddy, son.
15-year-old Perry Roll Jr. was stabbed to death following an altercation with another teenage boy on Tuesday afternoon. A teen boy is in police custody in relation to that matter. Speaking with PJ's mother, Gladys Lewis, on Wednesday, the 38-year-old told Our News that her son was attacked with a knife twice before Tuesday afternoon's fatal incident. The elder Perry Roll says he knew about the assaults, but he doubted whether his child's mother did enough to protect their son.
I been to your lady told me she reported. I was going to report it, but she told me she reported, which I don't think she reported, because this is the third time. And that's what I try to say. I told this young lady move this boy out of school. She told me she could move him, but she ain't never move him. She said, that's her son. By right and by law, that's the woman. I know where my son at the first time I even questioned her why she put him in the school wheelchair.
Lewis also told Our News that Perry was carrying weapons in a bid to protect himself. Roll Sr. claims he was none the wiser.
I didn't even know that, because I ain't gonna let him tote no knife. Because if it come down to this point, I could take him out of school, but she done tell me she could transfer this little boy out of school. If she didn't see it coming down to that point, she posted. That's why I actually get it's her fault too, because I come to this young lady, give me my son, let me take care of him. She told me she want him to stay because that's mommy boy.
According to Roll Sr., custody of PJ was a contentious issue between he and PJ's mother.
I tell her, you was a young lady. When the little boy that reached 14 years of age, he don't fear no woman no more. If it's his mother, he might have respect. But when it come down to you putting fear in him as a woman, he ain't gonna fear that. You need a man to put fear in man.
Roll Sr. also slammed Education Minister Jeff Lloyd, who insisted that the stabbing was a community issue and the nation's schools are safe.
To Mr. Lloyd, no disrespect, but that's my son. Don't think this a game. Watch the word you speak. All right? That's my son. You come on national TV, come talking, but he didn't get killed on school campus. Sound like you want kids come and get killed on school campus and you agreeing with that. A big man, that's my son. And I want you to feel that's how you go react if somebody do that to your son. I'll do the same thing.
Lloyd has since apologized if there was any misunderstanding with his comments. However, he says he stands by what he said. And while Roll pointed the finger at his child's mother and the authorities for not keeping his son safe, his sister, Nelda Saint-Ile, who accompanied him to Our News studios, put him on blast for not ensuring that his side of the family was close with PJ.
And I blame my brother for not allowing me to get to know my nephew one-on-one. I blame him and I blame his mother. Because if they couldn't do for him, we were there. I could have done something. I coming home from work, from work, and I saw the incident happen, and I wasn't aware that that's my nephew there. That hurt me because I feel like I failed him as an aunt and as a mother. I wouldn't want that for my grandchild. I wouldn't want it for my child. You know, it hurt. Because now he feel he had to go through all that pain alone, and he have people that love him.
And while the pain of PJ's death runs deep to the point of anger and blame, his father shared his most fond memory of his son a moment when PJ was just 9 years old.
Tell me, Daddy, no, now, Daddy ain't leave you, baby. I always remember that Daddy ain't leave you. You leave Daddy, they take you. You know, I know you wasn't gonna go there like this. You wasn't crying like this. I know, I can't never forget that. I can't never forget that.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Meanwhile, the Minister of National Security today faced questions over more police presence in and around schools. While he insists government is looking at ways to increase security on school campuses, the Commissioner of Police appears to think the answer doesn't necessarily lie with more police officers.
Well, it has nothing to do with officers in school. It has to do with behavior. We have to continue to train our children.
The National Security Minister says he is in discussions with the relevant stakeholders to determine the best ways to enhance security in and around schools, including the possible increase of police presence.
We're contemplating how do we combine technology and how do we improve our human resource outlay, and that's in terms of preparing our teachers and training our security officers and improving police visibility in these areas.
But while Dames may feel that way, Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson is of the strong view that placing more police officers near schools wouldn't exactly be the fix.
We have officers on the streets daily. I believe that we have adequate officers out there. We're not going to be everywhere, and that is why it's so important that a society, and particularly again, I point to persons who are responsible for the children, to make sure that they are grounded in the right thing and understanding what it is that you ought to be involved in and what you ought not to be involved. We cannot run from that.
There's long been debate over whether there needs to be more police officers in school zones. On any given day, you'd see 1 or 2 officers near public senior high schools. But after Tuesday's brutal murder of a 15-year-old junior high student, the National Security Minister insists more will be done to prevent this type of activity from occurring. Education Minister Jeff Lloyd has said he was made aware that there is an issue in that area with students from the 3 schools, T.A. Thompson, C.C. Sweeting, and T.G. Glover. We asked the commissioner about those concerns.
You keep telling me what people noted. I'm telling you what the police is doing. The police job is to prevent crime, detect it, and that is why we are out there. We cannot be everywhere at the same time. We make every effort to really cover the entire Bahamas and not just one particular location.
Both men say parents and the community must do their part if there is to be any reduction in crime among young people.
Always remember now that our schools are just a microcosm of our wider community. And what plays out in those communities, unfortunately, are sometimes taken into or near to the school environment.
1 week after 5 senior members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force joined 3 of their colleagues in being placed on leave, National Security Minister Marvin Dames confirmed that several senior Defense Force officers have been placed on leave as well. When pressed for more information on how many Defense Force officers were sent on leave and who they are, Dames would only say this sort of thing is normal.
Yeah, we've got. Yeah. How many? Can you tell us how many Defense Force officers have been sent on their vacation leave?
Well, it's still a work in progress. We're still working, but we make no apologies. We understand that we have to, and not this is not solely a law enforcement issue. This is something that we have to do throughout our public service.
We reached out to Defense Force Commodore Tullis Bethel, however, we got no response up to airtime. Our News understands 3 captains and a lieutenant commander with over 30 years on the Defense Force were asked to take vacation leave. The PLP has called the move within the Ministry of National Security political. However, Dames once again insisted it has nothing to do with politics.
This is what good governance is all about. And so we should not be complaining when the government steps in and say, we now have to run the government according to the rules and the policies and the legislation. We can't ignore these things because they were put in place for a reason. And I will have nothing else to say about that other than that's the only objective. This is not personal, this is not political. As I said before,
Well, PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell is warning Bahamians not to be fooled by the announcement that Lucayan Renewal Holdings Limited has signed a letter of intent with Royal Caribbean and ITM for the sale of the Grand Lucayan Resort. He says government has made announcements in the past that haven't amounted to anything.
You had the Oban deal. The press exposed that immediately for the phony deal it was. That was Grand Bahama. It was supposed to be billions, and it was supposed to impact the GDP and all these jobs that we're going to produce, and it was going to create such a boost to the economy of Grand Bahama. Nada. And then you'll remember the Prime Minister went to West Grand Bahama, was thrilled at what he saw there. I don't know where he was all these years, to see this great investment in West Grand Bahama. And this was going to take off, and it was going to put 150 million in the economy and jobs and so on and so forth. Nada.
The proposed joint venture project between Royal Caribbean and ITM will include the redevelopment of the Grand Lucayne Resort and Freeport Harbor. The first phase of the development is projected to cost $195 million over 2 years, with the creation of approximately 2,000 jobs. Mitchell says the opposition awaits additional information.
We'll be watching it to make sure the deal is a real deal, and the devil is always in the details. Talk is cheap. Money buys land in this country. So we have to see what the details are. How is this going to impact Grand Bahama? How many jobs are actually going to come out of it?
Government purchased the storm-ravaged Grand Lucayne Resort for $65 million last September. We asked Mitchell if he thought RCL ITM is a suitable buyer.
Don't know anything about ITM. Royal Caribbean seems to have a good reputation, but companies do things for strategic reasons. We have no idea what the backstory is. They haven't spoken to us. I mean, they're not bound to speak to us. But, the devil's in the details, and we await the details.
A new tool in the fight against crime is helping police locate the area of a gunshot as it happens. It's called ShotSpotter, and police have been testing it in certain parts of New Providence for several weeks.
What will happen? Once the shot goes off, control room will receive that signal. Also, the officers in the patrol car will receive that signal simultaneously. If the officer who is in the patrol car will wish to respond to that gunshot detection, he can acknowledge it and respond directly to that incident or where that shot is coming from.
Police conducted a live test for the media today where shots were sent off in a certain area of New Providence and the icons showed up. At the moment, ShotSpotter is only set up in certain portions of the island, but police would not disclose exactly where. And while the new crime-fighting tool has been shelved in cities like Toronto, Canada, after some residents there raised concerns about privacy and police potentially hearing their conversations, Alfred Lewis of ShotSpotter explained why that shouldn't be an issue here.
The officers who are under control operation at Step Street has fired 2 rounds, and as you can see in seconds, the system had picked up those shots.
We're a gunshot detection company, and we install the array outside in open areas above the roadways, above ambient noise. So we're not looking to capture audio other than for gunfire events. So when that dynamic event occurs, that bang, that boom, or that pop, it sends the information to our location servers and then to our monitoring center. We're listening to gunfire.
Well, it could be 3 years before Bahamians are ready to take over the day-to-day management of the New Providence landfill. Head of Waste Resources Development Group Henry Dean also revealing today that it will take $20 million to complete phase 1 of their plans to transform the dump. With more on this, here's Jasmine Brown.
Dean's comments came days after the company took over management of the landfill, as he revealed they've already hit the ground running. Dean made the comments while speaking at a Rotary Club of West Nassau meeting on Thursday afternoon. Dean says the new management team has had to bring in workers from North America with expertise on managing landfills. However, he insisted that's only a temporary measure.
We are assisted by 2 groups of non-Bahamians, one from Canada and one from the United States. They bring the scientific technology to the table. We have said to the government that give us 3 years and Bahamians will be up to par in taking us over. And so immediately after we sign this agreement, our foreign partners have been mandated to identify Bahamians to shadow them.
Dean says so far they have hired more than 36 permanent employees.
To date, we have hired about 50 persons
1 month ago, government signed a contract with New Providence Ecology Park for a $45 million multi-phased redevelopment of the New Providence landfill. NPEP, which is comprised of Waste Resources Development Group and Providence Advisors, officially took over operation of the landfill on March 14th, exactly 30 days after signing the contract.
This project, this initial phase, is going to cost us about $20 million, and the extended work is going to run into $40–50 million.
The recent work at the dump comes after years of challenges at the landfill. Addressing long-standing problems at the landfill was a key campaign pledge for the Free National Movement. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Still to come, PHA purchases life-saving equipment for EMS. Stay tuned.